Hi everyone, it's Rax, and welcome to another complete class guide for Diablo Immortal. This time we're going to be going over the Barbarian, another class that I played, and Barbarians, I have them third on my tier list, but Barbarians are so freaking good in Diablo Immortal. They're my favorite class in Diablo 3. If I wasn't going Demon Hunter, which is what I plan to main, I would go Barb. They are super godly. They're just godly at everything. Let's just get into it. We're going to go over the overview of the whole class. Then we'll talk about leveling and what you do in dungeons and raids and PvP. And we're going to see what they're really made out of. Now, when you start with any class, you have to start with the overview, right? And of course, we're on Maxroll because you have to see what their strengths and weaknesses are to see if they're the right thing for you. So they have very high AoE damage because they have Whirlwind. You spin to win. Everybody knows this from all these different games. You spin around and you kill everything, okay? They have a very fast-paced melee style. They have a lot of gap closers, so it's a melee that can really keep up with everybody. They've got some tremendous mobility. Immense threat in PvP. I love the way that Rob and Lee worded this. I mean, other than a Crusader, a Barbarian is definitely, maybe the Barbarian is the most terrifying thing you can see in PvP. They have a skill called Undying Rage, and so much CC and so much lifesteal. Whenever you see a Barbarian, you just have to turn around and run in PvP or you're guaranteed to die. They have a lot of crowd control. They give amazing buffs. They're super godly in groups, maybe the best class to bring in groups. But you take damage constantly because you're in melee. They suck at doing single target damage. They suck. So Barbarians love to play with either a Necro or a DH who can murder the boss for them, and they can team up, and then that's like the ultimate duo. They have long cooldowns. Melee sucks in very hard content. And in order to play properly in groups, you have to fill up like half of your bars with buffs for other people. So you got to be a team player if you want to be a Barb. So my favorite way to go over these classes is let's quickly look at their different skills and talk about them. So there are two attacks. There's primary attacks. You either get to use Lacerate or Frenzy. Now, Lacerate is a better choice for almost everybody in most situations because Lacerate has lifesteal. You get a shield that, well, I guess now it's a shield. They change the stuff all the time. Okay, no, it does heal. It does every third hit heals. And you also get a shield that absorbs in the ultimate. Okay, so you still get the lifesteal and you get a shield on the ultimate. So Lacerate is the better choice for most people because you're going to get your health back, right? And you're going to stay alive. And your primary attack isn't your main form of damage as a Barb. But Frenzy just straight up does more damage. So if you don't care about lifesteal and you just want to deal the most damage, then Frenzy is the one to go for, and it has a really, really nice ultimate. Most people take Lacerate, but Frenzy does more damage. Chain Spear, the skill sucks. Nobody uses it. Cleave also kind of sucks. Nobody ever uses it. Demoralize is amazing because when you take this legendary power, you get Warcry, and all damage, including your allies, is increased by 25%. This is an incredible buff. You will absolutely take this and give your teammates a Warcry. So Demoralize is amazing. Furious Charge is amazing in PvP. It can also be used in challenge rifts, I believe, because it's a big gap closer and it does a lot of damage. You charge in, you bash your head against them, you travel to a great distance. It's a good gap closer. Really, really good skill. Grab is by far the biggest meme skill for any class. Let's just read this. Seize a nearby monster and wield it as a weapon. You see a little giraffe there? You grab the giraffe, and now the giraffe is your weapon. How ridiculous is that? However, there is a huge missed opportunity here in red. It doesn't work with players, elites, bosses. Imagine if a Barbarian was like, imagine a Crusader rode in on his pony to engage, and then a Barbarian charged in right after him and picked up his teammate and started smacking people with his teammate. That would be the greatest thing I've ever seen in any video game. But Blizzard, you had a huge miss. This could have been way better. But you're definitely going to have to put grab on and just try it for the memes, just to have some fun. Ground Stomp. Ground Stomp sucks. Don't use Ground Stomp. Hammer the Ancients is extremely good, especially with this power. Hammer the Ancients now summons a Spirit of the Ancients. It stuns all nearby enemies and fights for you. The stun is huge. It can tank for you. It does a lot of damage, and it gives the Barb a much needed single target damage. And then there's another legendary power which gives you another charge. So these two things together can make Hammer the Ancients one of the Barb's best skills. Leap sucks, don't use it. Sprint is extremely good. As Rob puts here, it's mandatory for PvP. And if you use Swift Wing, you can apply it to your allies. This is so good when you're giving them the 25% increased shout and everybody is sprinting. You guys can literally just plow through a dungeon and farm it very efficiently. Undying Rage, other than Pony for a Crusader, I think Undying Rage might be the second best skill in all of Immortal. Enter a Rage, I believe it's at 6 seconds, it's 5 or 6, that prevents you from dying and causes all of your attacks to heal you for 30% of the damage that you deal, and it activates automatically when you take fatal damage. What the hell is that? When you die, instead, you can't possibly die for 6 seconds, and all of the damage that you deal is multiplied by 0.3 and healed you for that amount. So it prevents you from dying. You don't have to activate it. You can't die for another 6 seconds, and you're essentially guaranteed a full heal. How is this a skill? It is the most ridiculous thing in PvP. This is why it puts the fear of God into people when they see a Barbarian in PvP. If you've got Undying Rage up, you can charge into the entire team and whirlwind them all down. There's stuns, you can bring up your Ancients, and you can just destroy them. It's ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if Blizzard nerfs this. At least make the Barbarian have to actually activate it. But this is like a super Tryndamere skill if you guys have ever played League of Legends. Whirlwind, don't need to say anything about Whirlwind. It's a godly skill. You spin around and kill everything. Everyone will be using Whirlwind. And Wrath of the Berserker is an amazing buff. It gives you massive attack speed and movement speed, and there's also a legendary power that switches it to crit hit chance, which is a huge damage increase. So this buff is really good. Let's quick rundown of the skills. So the Barb has the Horn of Ariet, which increases all damage, which is a super good class buff. For the attributes, similar to the other two classes I've already covered, Strength gives you increased damage, so it's the best stat that you can look for. Fortitude gives Armor Pen, which is critical hit damage, so that's second best. Vitality gives Life, that's third best. Willpower gives Potency and Resistance. These two stats currently suck in the game. So maybe one day Blizzard will buff them, but these stats suck. And then Intelligence gives you absolutely nothing, so it's the worst. For the family bonuses, Vengeance is usually the best because primary attacks have a 2% chance to increase all of your damage, and Barbarians need this increased damage whenever they can get it. Another decent option is the Tremor. Your primary attacks have a chance to inflict more damage and stun people. That's very good in PvP. You charge in with Furious Charge, you whirlwind around, you proc your Undying Rage, except for you can't die, and then you just keep attacking them with Frenzy, and it has a chance to deal more damage and just chain stuns them. I mean, you just kill everybody, right? Barbarians are crazy. So those are some of the top ones that you're looking for. For normal gems, it's the same for every class. Red is better than blue. Blue is better than yellow. Tourmaline is better than ruby because damage is better than life. Makes sense. We want to do more damage, not live. Same strategy here. Armor Pen, which is critical hit damage, is better than Aquamarine because armor, we don't care about living. And Potency and All Resistance in Diablo Immortal both suck, so just take whichever one is better. If you have a choice, you get a little pack of gems that says you can choose any one. Choose Tourmaline every single time. It's the best one. For legendary gems, I'm going to use the same strategy I use for the other build guides. Talking about the best in slot legendary gems is pretty worthless for two reasons. One, you're never going to get these things unless you swipe the credit card, unless Blizzard changes it, which would be great. If they change it and we have access to it, that's fantastic. I don't think many of you are going to have any of these. The second reason is because the best in slot legendary gems are like the best for every single class. It's like the same thing. So there's nothing really to explain here. So instead, let's look at the starter legendary gems that you would actually be able to get that will help your build. So these 5, Everlasting Torment, Fervent Fang, Berserkers, Lightning Core, and Chain Death, these are good for like every class, right? Everlasting Torment puts in this really nice dot. It does a lot of damage. It gives you more attack speed. It's really good. Fervent Fang gives you more damage to the same target if you keep hitting it. This is exactly what Barbarians need, because their biggest flaw is they suck at killing the big bosses. So any gem that helps you do damage to one guy is very welcome. I think you get this from the Battle Pass. Berserker's Eye is very good. You deal more damage, but you take more damage. Barbs already have Lifesteal, and Barbs have Undying Rage, and there's no way you're going to die anyway. Lightning Core shoots out Chain Lightning. It's really powerful. Chain Death increases your damage per target hit. This is very good for Whirlwind. You're always hitting a ton of monsters, so it's more damage. The interesting one for Barbarians, which really doesn't apply to the other classes, is Trick Shot Gem. Trick Shot Gem channeled skills consume energy slower. This is very good for Whirlwind, which you'll use all the time, and you also take less damage. So that's the reason why Trick Shot is actually pretty decent for Barbs, while it sucks for the other classes. The Awaken stuff, this is kind of a super endgame thing. We don't need to talk about that. If you get that far, just come read the guide. That's a long ways away. The Paragon points, we have the beautiful slider here. It takes you through exactly the tricky stuff that you'll want to do all the way to Paragon 199. Essentially, what it takes you through is it just takes all the DPS nodes in the most efficient way possible. Okay, so I'll let you look through this. What's going on with this slider bar? There we go. So it just takes you through step by step and shows you exactly the path you want to take to get the highest damage. And remember, when you're playing with your Paragon points, you need to activate whichever tree you want. So the circle nodes, the ones that are shaped like a circle, you have those buffs all the time. So if I have 10 of 10 here and it gives me 40 potency, I have 40 potency no matter what. However, the square nodes, this exorcism 5% increased damage to monsters, you only get the square nodes for the Paragon tree that you have activated. So make sure that you activate the tree that is recommended here. And just follow the path and it'll show you exactly how to build your Paragon to Paragon 199, which will take you like months to reach anyway. So this should set you up very well. All right. So that is the overview. Now we can use that information to just quickly look at the build guides. So what are we going to do at the very beginning? We are going to start with Lacerate. That's that primary that life steals for you. Super good to use. We're going to get Cleave, which sucks, and we're going to get Hammer of the Ancients, which is godly. So you already have 2 godly skills at level 1. At level 3, you'll get Chain Spear. This skill sucks, so we're just waiting to replace that. Level 8, you get Whirlwind. Now the game's fun. You whirlwind around and you kill everything. At level 15, you'll get Sprint. Sprint's going to help you run through the game much faster and just get to the end. And finally, all the way at 50, we'll finally get Wrath the Berserker and we'll replace Cleave. And at level 50, we will be good to go. And that's pretty much all that you need to know. While you are leveling up, you will have a chance for the Battle Pass to choose a certain reward. It'll give you a bunch of choices. And the one that we recommend is the Remembered, where Hammer of the Ancients will now summon a spirit and it's going to stun everybody. Remember, you hammer and the big spirit spawns. You're going to need that. That's the biggest help you can get throughout the game. Just double checking here. We need to rename this to Barb. It says Monk. Okay, so that is how we're going to level up. Now, the solo build after you get done leveling is going to be a big shocker. It's exactly the same thing. Lacerate, Sprint, Wrath the Berserker, Hammer, Whirlwind. So if you're playing by yourself, when you're done following the leveling guide, it's not a coincidence that we told you to build toward the solo leveling guide, or the solo, progression guide, so you'll be ready to dominate. Just make sure to follow through here and see what legendary powers you're going to be looking for. So for example, we want second breath for sprint so we can use it for longer, and so the cooldown is decreased by 10%. For a whirlwind, you're going to want the tempest, which increases the radius, and the gathering, which is going to pull all enemies in, so you turn into a vacuum, etc. But essentially, once you're done leveling, you're going to be able to use this build while solo farming very easily. So then the next one is, what do you do for raids? Well, when you go to raids, remember you're now playing with other teammates. So you need to do massive damage to the boss, and you need to bring your group buffs. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch to Frenzy this time, especially if you can stay alive. If you can use Frenzy while staying alive, this is the better option. It's going to do more damage to the boss. If you're dying all the time, then take Lacerate for the lifesteal. When you're doing raids, feel free to take Undying Rage. If they kill you, guess what? You don't die. And you can have it up every 30 seconds. You can die like 1,000,000 times in the raid, and no one will ever know that you actually died. It makes it that easy. Then remember the little trick with taking Demoralize with the Battle Master's Helm, and now it replaces it with a War Cry and gives all your teammates 25% damage. That is a godly buff. It's absolutely godly. You've got to take it. And then Wrath the Berserker will make you deal more damage. And then, of course, Hammer the Ancients with the little spirit that's coming with you. You need that to do single target damage. This is a pretty good raid build. Another thing that we should discuss real quick for this is, what are the good sets? So the Grace of the Flagellant, did I say that right? All continual damage, channel damage, persistent ground damage is increased by 15%. This is buffing Whirlwind. Every time you damage an individual enemy 5 times, you do extra damage. Every time you deal damage, you have a 4% chance to unleash a lightning strike and gaining a stun. It's just a super good overall set for the Barbarian that's usually using Whirlwind. However, in this raid build, we don't have Whirlwind. So instead, we're going to switch to what Demon Hunters usually use and increase our primary attack. That's why you take Frenzy. Take Frenzy with the primary attack set. Frenzy is going to chomp, and you're going to actually be contributing to the big raid boss. Okay? So what do you do if you're in dungeons? Well, if you're in dungeons, you're going to be playing in groups, so you're going to be a very supporty character. So you're going to take Sprint and take the power to give it to the whole team. You're going to take the Demoralize to give them the damage increase. You're going to take Wrath the Berserker to increase your own damage. And then you can either take Whirlwind or the Hammer of the Ancients. We recommend Whirlwind here because you're going to kind of suck on the boss anyway. You need to bring a Demon Hunter or a Necro to kill the bosses in the dungeons. And then you'll use Frenzy again. In groups, you should be pretty safe. There's really no reason for you to die. So you might as well take Frenzy so you deal additional damage. And of course, since we're using Whirlwind, we'll go back to the Grace set. What do we do in challenge rifts? Well, it's different when you're solo and when you're in group. When you're in solo, you're going to do essentially exactly what you were doing while leveling up, except you need to take Undying Rage. That way, when things go bad, when you get to the really high levels, it's very hard to survive. This is going to give you a cheat death every 30 seconds. It's amazing. You could use Frenzy or Lacerate. Frenzy is more damage on the boss at the end. So if you can use Frenzy, that's the better option. But if you just cannot stay alive, then take Lacerate to try to stay alive. So not too different from what we were doing there. And in group challenge rifts, I bet you could already guess what I was going to tell you. It's going to go straight back to support stuff. Going to take Undying Rage to stay alive. We're going to take Demoralize with the increased damage. Another thing we could consider doing is taking Sprint if that's needed. Usually you're not moving too far in challenge rifts, so that might not be the best option, but it's another thing to consider. Whirlwind to AoE down all the trash. Hammer of the Ancients, of course, for more damage. And of course, when we get the Remembered, we get the Spirit. It's going to help us do some single target damage. Once again, either Lacerate for the lifesteal or Frenzy for the increased damage. That's how we're going to handle challenge rifts. And Man, barbarians are so good in PvP. Look at the benefits versus the negatives. It's got like 6 benefits, 3 negatives. They're so good in PvP. It's kind of stupid. Once again, we go with Frenzy. The lifesteal in PvP doesn't really help. The fights are too quick, so you might as well take the thing that deals more damage. So Frenzy is probably the way here. Furious Charge is pretty much needed. It does a massive amount of damage, and it's a gap closer. So we need to take that. Sprint, again, is going to make you super fast. No one's going to be able to outrun you between Sprint and Furious Charge. So you're literally like a death machine going after them. Undying Rage is the best PvP skill in the game, except for like Pony from a Crusader. So I mean, you can just literally engage a team once every 30 seconds and pentakill their entire team. It's very satisfying. And then, of course, you got to take Whirlwind. You Furious Charge in, and then you use Undying Rage, and then you Whirlwind everything down. It's a guaranteed win. And that pretty much is going to wrap up the Barb guide. So once again, if you want to see any of these guides, just go to Build Guides on Maxroll, click Barb, and here they all are. The overview, the solo, the raid, all the ones that we just covered. They're absolutely amazing. They really are. One of the very, very best classes on Immortals launch. Definitely S tier. Mandatory to bring in groups. Everyone loves the sprint buff and the increased damage buff. Nobody cares that barbs can't kill the bosses. That's what demon hunters and necros are for. So if you're going to play a barb, I look forward to playing with you in Immortal. I'll be a demon hunter. You buff me. I'll kill the bosses. We're going to be happy. Have a good one, guys.